want to go a bit more high-tech, you can use artificial intelligence to inspect batteries with 3D X-ray microscopy and computed tomography. And we have an expert in that field in Herminso Villarraga Gómez, who is the X-ray Quality Solutions Manager, Industrial Quality Solutions with ZEISS Industrial Metrology. Herminso.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Let's get started. What is that? Using artificial intelligence to inspect batteries. Okay, that's my presentation. My name is Herminso Gómez, and I'm here to talk about some unique workflows using artificial intelligence to inspect batteries with 3D X-ray microscopy and computer tomography. Let me start with a little bit of quick motivation on this topic. We know that today rechargeable batteries play an essential role in our present world, to the point which nearly every major automated company has announced a transition from combustion engine cars to electric vehicles in the next 10 to 30 years. Most lithium-ion batteries, and I'm going to start with this technology, though it's a solid-state conference. I'll present at the end some images, but most of the images that we can get with X-ray CT right now, or good hands on, are lithium-ion batteries. But the principle of the technology is basically the same. And in terms of lithium-ion batteries, we have the typical three different packaging types: cylindrical cells, prismatic cells, and pouch cell batteries. And in terms of inspection of lithium-ion battery cells and failure analysis, here you can see a list of the different main features that people are often inspecting for failure analysis. There are several advanced technologies out there to inspect rechargeable batteries. For example, visible light, ultrasound, X-rays, electron microscopy, neutron microscopy. Could you go back one slide, please? Yes. Several other technologies that are certainly good in terms of resolution, but some of them are limited in terms of penetration. X-rays is one of those technologies that can scan most of the a long range of features, going from nanometers to millimeters. And from the several of those technologies, X-ray is the one that I'm going to present today. In the past version of this conference, I have already explained the difference between X-ray microscopy and computer tomography, and some of the most important applications. So I'm not going to repeat that, but let me just remind you, so you get a refreshment of X-ray microscopy is mainly characterized by getting high-resolution 3D images with some special technique that we call optical magnification that allow us to get a higher resolution in smaller fields of view. And if you want to learn more about this topic, if you didn't come last year, there is a paper reference there, which is an open access, and you can go there and learn more about this. On the other hand, 3D X-ray computer tomography, though it cannot get the level of resolution of 3D X-ray microscopes, it can inspect bigger parts, including a full battery pack. Therefore, it is possible to inspect in a non-destructive manner battery cells and molecule assemblies. Again, if you want to learn more on this topic or expand your knowledge, just check that paper reference on the bottom right of the slide. So let me go now into the topic of using or how we can leverage artificial intelligence to advance battery research and failure analysis in the battery field with 3D X-ray microscopy and computer tomography. And let me split the topic in two, using deep learning algorithms for imaging acquisition, meaning pre-reconstruction before to creating the 3D data, and the second topic is CT image analysis of the data once it is already reconstructed. So that would be a post-reconstruction process. So let me start with using artificial intelligence for image acquisition. In the traditional approach for industrial CT reconstruction, it's typically to use analytical algorithms such as FDK or Feldkamp Express. However, to obtain a faithful 3D image reconstruction with FDK, one would have to have a sufficiently large number of radiographic projections in the order of 2,000 or more. This means that particularly when acquiring data at high resolution, acquisition times can be slow. And the FDK method then has some limitation in terms of a throughput scan. If throughput is increased by reducing the number of projections or the exposure time, then the image quality suffers dramatically. But there is one alternative for improvement: deep learning. A network can be created between the 2D radiographs and the 3D reconstructed volume, and we can train the network to ignore noise while paying attention to the sample features. Thus, we can create a faithful 3D reconstruction with a smaller set of projections. And this is something we have done at ZEISS with deep learning workflow, and we're calling this workflow DeepRecon. DeepRecon is implemented into a software workflow to scan the entire workflow with just applying a couple of clicks in the software. So there is no need to have a machine learning expert in front of the operation. So there is no need for programming. Everything is happening under the hood of this software. And the DeepRecon can be operated on two different modes. One is a scan time reduction to achieve faster scans with better image quality than the standard reconstruction at lower number of projections. And the second, to achieve improvements in image quality. So you will improve the image quality at the same level of projections, even if you want to have a high number of projections type of scan. This is an example of an intact lithium battery from a commercial smartwatch. And the region of interest are typically the cathode materials, particle structures, debris or any potential damage in the polymer separator. And DeepRecon demonstrated that it can get 4x throughput time improvement in this case, and even some improvement in image quality, as you can see in the last image. And this is good because that will enhance the capability of doing segmentation and quantification analysis of the cathode materials and particle identification of the particle structures, or to identify any potential damage in the polymer separator. Let's look at another example of a maybe semi-repetitive application, such as taking a look at the microstructure of the lithium-ion battery in a commercial pouch battery in this case. So as you can see, if we want to image faster, then we could reduce the projections to 1/4 with the standard reconstruction, but then we start seeing noise in the data. If we do this with DeepRecon, then we can see that we get rid of the noise and we recover the data. And that's the whole point of this network or DeepRecon reconstruction. We can record the original image quality using 1/4 of the projections, and even better if you take a closer look. So you can turn around results faster and evaluate more materials or batteries of similar structure. The battery analysis can range from several kinds of measuring tasks like defect inspection, material evaluation, in situ monitoring of cycling behaviors, and high-resolution imaging to provide input into the battery cycling performance models. This can be imported to a performance model if you want. And as you can see, DeepRecon has allowed to do this type of tasks. And let's say someone really wants the best possible image quality, and scan time is not a problem. DeepRecon can then use the training algorithm to improve the quality of the data, even a high number of projections, and get a more clear structure of the graphite anode over there. For other type of repetitive tasks like measuring layer thickness and inspecting the whole battery, or maybe large battery cells for large defects, like in this one, which is a 21700 cylindrical cell, we could go from 3200 projections to 400 projections. And you can see that if we use the traditional algorithm, significant artifacts will appear. Those artifacts are called aliasing or undersampling. But if you use the deep training network or the DeepRecon, then you can remove those artifacts and provide equivalent results in 1/8 of the time to what you have to do in the first image, which will take around 11 hours. So you can reduce the time to 1.4 hours. And this will be another example in which you can identify some particles and defects. Of course, there is some time that you will need to spend on. You have a very high powered computer to do the modeling. But the modeling, once it's done, you can use it in other samples. And the modeling will take in the order of a couple of hours, 3 or so. Now, there is another possible version. What I have been presented is in terms of improving image quality or speeding time for scan. But like in other imaging techniques, there is a natural trade-off between resolution and field of view. And this is also the case for 3D X-ray microscopy. The idea is illustrated here, and you can see large field of view scans which not cover more area, but the resolution is not that great, and you have a great resolution scan, but then the field of view is limited. And this can be explained maybe in this example, hypothetical example. Sorry, it's not a battery, it's a circuit board there. But scanning a large field of view can be a true challenge, and this happens in the electronics sector as well. The classical approach to scan the full board at high resolution will be to start moving the zoom in of the 3D X-ray microscope and scan different regions of interest at high resolution. This will prove quite long, especially if you already are spending quite a lot of time in scanning those high resolution small field of views. What if we use a network, a deep learning network, to train the data based on a small region of interest at high resolution, take a low resolution scan in the full data, large field of view, and now expand that learning network to the full sample. And thus, we are calling it now DeepScout. So with DeepScout, it is possible to recover resolution details across a large field of view. And that's the innovation of this second part of the deep learning algorithms for pre-reconstruction or for reconstruction process. And this is illustrated here. You have a large field of view scan there, and if we take a small field of view, high resolution scan, we can use that high resolution scan to create a algorithm, the deep learning algorithm model that will be expanded to the large field of view. And I have data for a solid state battery. It's the only one I have because there are not many commercial batteries out there, but there is one that we could put hands on. And you can see there's a large field of view scan, and then at the bottom you can see a small field of view at high resolution. And using the DeepScout, we can now expand the high resolution data to the full sample. And this is just a video. I think it's still in low resolution of the full sample, so you get an idea if you have seen it before. But what you can do is then expand. You see the full field of view, then the high resolution data in a small region of interest, and when you use DeepScan and you expand that to large field of view, that's what you get over here over the right of the screen. And what are the differences? Well, that's illustrated here. Yeah? There are 3 snapshots here, one full of view, a small portion of the full field of view scan, a low resolution, then the high resolution that is being used for training network, and then the deep scan data. And the same when you look at from a different angle. So that's about pre-reconstruction. So you can use it for reconstructing the data going from the 2D projections to the 3D data. There is another way to use deep learning, which a lot of people are doing it. This pre-reconstruction is very unique from ZEISS. We have the advantage point of being the pioneer in that area. In the post-processing, there are other companies that are using it, and it's by basically take the data that you collect from 3D and now apply some deep learning algorithm to try to improve the data, or do some type of defect detection. What happens in X-ray CT is that you collect data and the data comes in a grayscale level. And you use the data to do several types of inspections, like check for porosity, inclusion, maybe well defects, size and shape errors, and many others. But the volumetric data, the 3D data that define each voxel is in a grayscale value. And generally, the traditional methods use thresholding algorithms, but then there is the problem of how good those segmentation approaches could be, and what's the criteria that you use. And that's also improved. The problem is even more challenging because there are effects on those algorithms by noise, by image artifacts that are usually in X-ray CT, and the homogeneous contrast gradients that is the natural data that you obtain from a CT scan. So one alternative to the traditional segmentation algorithms is to use machine learning again. And how you train the data? Well, here is an illustration, and of course what you cannot detect with gray, machine algorithm will do it because the computer actually can see 60,000 levels of gray, and you can annotate the background and the defect regions, and after the initial annotations, use the artificial intelligence based leveling to check and then train the model. And of course, you have to do some iterations to check the accuracy and modify if you need. And use multiple different regions of the sample, or different samples if possible, so make the algorithm more robust. And after you have that, then you can apply the model. More training data means more robust your model will be. And this is represented by the accuracy of the detection method, which in machine learning depends on the use of a sufficiently large training data. More is better. And this is, I emphasize in this because basically you're doing a lot of labeling on a bunch of images. When you use DeepRecon, if you were to ask, well, what's the level of data that you're using? If you're using only one CT scan or high resolution microscopy scan to do the training of DeepRecon, the answer is one set of data in 3D. So in reality, there is a lot of images that DeepRecon or DeepScout will be using to train the algorithm. So you don't have to worry about the number of images that you will be using in that case, because you have thousands of images in the 3D reconstruction. Now, going back to topic, if you use the post-processing algorithm to do the defect detection, several approaches are out there, which range from manual to automatic, or maybe assisted kind of algorithms where you have an operator that gives input to what's the output. And this is an illustration of the workflow change depending on the method that someone might like to use. And this is an example of the use of machine learning algorithms for post-processing for CT image analysis. So in this case, we are intending to compute the battery overhangs. And the results will be shown in the next slide, right here. So with this kind of tools, you will be able to get more accurate data faster and in a semi-automated manner with the use of machine learning. You can imagine what will happen if you try to do it by hand or try to do it by looking at the image and even if the image has some level of noise, try to do those measurements of the overhang. So this is where the machine learning algorithms are of help to us. Some considerations to have, well, again, you have to have enough ground data and check if it is statistically appropriate. There are here some of the advantages of the traditional analysis, some of the advantages of machine learning as compared to the traditional analysis, and what you get out of using machine learning. It generally works better in mature applications when you know the type of samples that you are looking or the type of defect definition that you're looking for. It also works well for stable processes, so you avoid the modification of the model. So you imagine you're going to spend some time in doing the training data, and if you change the structure of the sample, then maybe you need to modify the training model. And this is one of the advantages, because one of the disadvantages, because you cannot give or input or modify this algorithm. It's not as easy as you will decide. You will have to create a new model from scratch. The investment in creating and qualifying the different approach necessarily implies that you need some validation. But the advantages are listed there. I'm not going to repeat. You can increase the speed, which we already saw. You can use less resolution to get larger field of view and increase the information that you get out using tools like this stuff. You can ignore noise, which we all are familiar with. It can be a pain when you are trying to analyze data, image data. And it can account for artifacts. If you train the model, it can know what are CT artifacts and get rid of them. So what you get at the end is just the data. And with this, just trying to catch up on the program today, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
That's great, thank you. We've got time for 2 or 3 questions now. So. One over there. Great.
Hey, Travis Knoll from Onto Innovation. I was curious, do you have the ability to import different models into your convolutional neural network to improve detection, or?
Prepare models, you mean? Or?
For like improved segmentation or detectability?
Yes and no. Well, it depends on what you mean with the import models. Let's say if you create the models using the software that we generated, you can take those models and then import them for further analysis on other types of data that you have. If you bring your own models that you can create, then we might have issues of compatibility.
Sure.
So we will have to look into that.
Sure. Yeah. So like using PyTorch models versus a like a ResNet or MobileNet or something like that.
Yeah. Now for now it's just based on the training models that we are providing, or that we allow the users to do. Because we have tested those, and then we have to make sure that we manage the expectations.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Hello. Can you detect the defect that is not learned by the machine, or you need to learn all the defect that
So I'm gonna separate the answer in two. One which is associated with DeepRecon or Deep Scout. And yes, it depends what you define as defects. Let's say if you're defining voids and you train the algorithm to detect get rid of noise so you can see more clearly the data and you can see voids, for sure you will detect them. Because it got rid of noise and you can see more clearly the data, you might be able to see other type of defects like cracks or maybe separations in the layers. You can actually now measure thickness of the different layers and see if there are also inclusions. So definitely you can see other defects. That's for the pre-processing, because basically what you are getting rid of is noise and artifacts that are generated by the actual process of CT scanning or reconstruction of CT scanning. So you will definitely have better chances to see features that pertain to the data. If you're using post-processing algorithms and you're training the data to detect voids, that's what the algorithm will do. It will detect voids for you and it will not look for other type of features like inclusions. So it depends how you're using it. The post-processing is based on labeling, and that's why it's very biased on what you're labeling to. The DeepRecon and the Deep Scout is not based in labeling, it's based on improving the data. Once you have good data, you can use other types of algorithms like traditional segmentation algorithm to try to detect other defects.
Any others? We're at time anyway, so let's thank our speaker again.